Hey, good evening. Welcome back to my little gardening show. I thought it'd be appropriate to make an update on our tomato contest, tomato Dallas Wilson Cuban. So the backstory on it, about 4 years ago, I picked one of those plants up from a local grow center. The grow center switched hands or ownership, and then they no longer had that variety. It was a local variety developed by a guy that worked there, and they don't carry it anymore. So I've not been able to find it. Search online, can't get seeds for it anywhere. So I decided to choose that as my tomato this year because they grow really big. I've got a video on it where the thumbnail is my daughter holding one of those tomatoes on her belly, and it's huge. So we're going to see if we can find the plant here. We tried to label things. I think I know which one it is, so let's take a look. Alright, so we're walking along tomato row here, and we get all kinds of varieties and all kinds of fruit. But the telltale sign is that the stems are kind of hairy and the fruit is pretty ribbed. So here's one. That's a Dallas Wilson Cuban. Again, kind of furry stems. And then we've got some over here as well. I believe that's not it. Let's come around over here. I think this plant here is a Dallas Wilson Cuban, but I don't see any fruit that has set on it yet. Oh, there's one right there. So if I remember right, it's kind of a later season tomato. We'll see them a little later on in the season, and hopefully they'll be pretty big. Interestingly enough, in learning about growing things, you know, you're only going to be as successful as your most limiting factor, which historically for us has been water. Though this year it seems like Dad's doing a pretty good job keeping up with that, and it's not been super hot. We've been able to keep up with the needs of the garden. But one thing that contributes to the growth is the availability of carbon dioxide. So I guess one example is if you've got a really good soil and there's a lot of biological activity, the plants are have reached, they're doing almost full capacity in terms of photosynthesis. You can get to a point when you've used up the carbon dioxide that's available to the plants, and maybe they're done with photosynthesis by like 10 o'clock in the morning, and then there's no carbon dioxide or a deficiency in that where they can't really do much more, and it's kind of a limiting factor. So people that grow like world record size vegetables, that's one of the things that they monitor and try to make sure there's plenty of that around. So that's kind of interesting. So anyway, we'll keep an eye on that Dallas Wilson Cuban. Let's zoom in on it one more time. Which again, I'm not seeing a whole lot of fruit set yet. There's one there, and then a little one over there. But not much on the lower branches that I can see that's set yet. So we're going to spend a little time pruning out the lower branches that are kind of starting to slough off. Try to keep these plants clean. So that I'd take you in as I'm going through with my micro pruners here. And it's funny, the name brand's Corona. I got these a year or two ago, but basically what I'm doing is I'm just going in and I'm clearing out the bottom foliage. Some of them I'm not removing the whole thing, others I am. You know, it just depends. If it looks healthy, like this one, I could probably go ahead and remove the rest of that. Just come in and clip that out. But I'm trying to increase the air circulation and just cut down on the potential for disease. And like here's some soil splash, just a little bit of dirt that's on that leaf. Now, there's no disease on that, so I'm just gonna leave it for now. But the idea is I'm clearing this out to where it's pretty clean underneath here in the tomatoes, so that it's going to be easier to fertilize them, easier to water them. I can also do some weeding while I'm down here. You know, if I see little weeds that could be plucked out, I'm plucking them out and just throwing them in the pathway. And then tomorrow when the sun comes out and hits all that, it's going to dry them out and kill them. You know, so you don't necessarily have to pick up the weeds you're pulling out, just pull them out and throw them on the ground. The sun will dry them out the next day and kill it. You know, as long as there's not a big clump of dirt on them. So we'll go down here. So I'm at my San Marzanos here that are on the end. And as this thing is growing up, you know, and putting out new leaves, the older branches are starting to slough down a little bit. And sometimes they show signs of disease or a little dying off or whatever. And, you know, otherwise they're healthy. But I'm going to go in here and just clip this off. It's got plenty of foliage to do photosynthesis, so I don't need all this bottom growth. As a rule of thumb, I try not to clip anything that's above the fruit set because it's providing shade and cover for the fruit so it doesn't sun scald. But anything below it's kind of fair game unless it's a fruiting stem, you know, where it's like that. It's a different texture and it's got flowers on it. I'll leave that alone, but you don't really see fruiting stems on the first foot of the plant. So here's one. It's got a little dead spot in it. We're just going to come in here and just clip that off. You know, and then I'm just throwing this aside, and then at the end I'll pick all this up and throw it over the fence. We'll mow it into the grass. But see, this increases the air circulation, helps the plant dry out after rains, cuts down on disease. Any of this low hanging stuff, like here's one that's kind of low hanging, I'm just going to clip it, like maybe right there. Even though that's healthy, I want to clean the bottom of this up so that we eliminate the risk of getting any kind of soil-borne disease. So throw that aside. Let's go down to the next one. You know, at the same time while I'm down here, I'm just plucking out these grass shoots that have come up. Probably as a result of me weeding the other night, you know, and stirring up the dirt. There's more that kind of sprouted, but they're really easy to just pluck out. The other thing too, before I start this process, I make sure these are sanitized. You know, warm soapy water or bleach water, or I've got a small butane torch that I'll heat these up periodically just to burn off any kind of residue. Just try to keep those clean so we don't spread disease. All right, here's another plant. There's all kinds of stuff on this. There's suckers I could pluck out. Just kind of looking at the growth habit of this, and so here's a fruit set down here. It's a branch right next to it. We're going to go ahead and take that out. And then here's one underneath that we can take out. It's actually right on the line. And again, here's a leaf that's got a little bit of a dead spot in it for whatever reason. We're just going to clip that leaf off. And then there's one more that's below the fruit set. We're going to clip that out. Now what I'll do when I'm done with this side is I'll go down the other side and just double check. Now here's one that's hanging kind of low, so we're going to go ahead and clip that out. It's below the fruit set. There, nice clean stem. There's another dead spot. We're just going to clip that out. And there's a branch that's way up here. I don't know if you can see it right there. That's drooping down all the way to the soil. I see where it's going, so I'm going to go ahead and get in there and clip that out. Some of these are drooping down because the sucker got so big, it kind of pushed it down. We're going to clip that one out. There, so now that's nice and clean. We're going to do that for the rest of the plants. Try to get this trellis done tonight, and then maybe tomorrow night do the other side. Doesn't take real long, just a little maintenance, and then again we can pluck out the weeds that we find. But a little bit of attention to the plants can save you a lot of what's the saying, an ounce of prevention's worth a pound of cure. So by just doing a little bit of maintenance here and there, keeping these nice and clean, I'm going to reduce my risk of disease, and I'm going to increase the likelihood that these plants are going to live longer and be more productive. And ultimately they're also going to push more energy into the upper growth and the fruit that's already set. Again, because we're in a field setting, I'm not stripping these completely clean. You watch some YouTube videos where they're growing in a greenhouse and they're doing what they call hard pruning, where they're just, really aggressive on pruning out foliage and trying to maximize production. And you can do that because you don't have the sun bearing down, whereas out here they need the protection, they need a little extra foliage. So anyway, we will clean all of this up behind me and then pack up and go home. So I guess that's it for now. Until next time, happy gardening. Bye.